Hello, beautiful souls. How are you today? So good to be with you again. Today is May 18th, 2023, and we're going to tackle a bit of a difficult concept for people. I've had several questions to clarify timeline jumping and how is that different from collapsing the timeline. So, um, unlike a lot of my other videos where I really channel the information and it comes from my heart and soul, I've done more research on this so that I could be as accurate in my explanation as possible. So the basics, which are a little hard to understand in its entirety, but I will take it slow. And again, we're born with amnesia and we have these 3D brains, and a lot of the concepts and a lot of the higher dimensional reality, it's hard to explain in our 3D language in English. And there are concepts that I personally don't have memory of, although I know in higher dimensions I'm participating in, which is unique, to try to explain that. But I promise I do my best. So to understand that multidimensional aspect that we are existing in 12 dimensions simultaneously, there's many different timelines available to us which make up the harmonic scale of the universal time matrix. The creational structure of the harmonic universe, there's 2 timelines per dimensional octave or vibration. So within our harmonic universe of 3D Earth, within the 3 dimensions, we have 6 timelines, 2 each, 3D, 4D, and 5D. 2 timelines per octave, per dimension, for a total of 6 timelines. When we energetically evolve and move up an octave or frequency, we are exposed to more dimensional octaves or frequencies, therefore more potential timelines. So when you hear me speak about increased frequency, clearing your energy to allow for increased frequency, that is the same as saying you are energetically evolving, because energy is your frequency, is your power. That is your octave, that is your resonance. Okay? Just different words to express the same concept. So as you ascend, which is your rise in frequency, more timelines open up to you. With each and every free will choice that we make in that ascension path, in that ascension journey, while we are course correcting to be in alignment to source creator, you jump timelines. So I actually touch on it in several videos. I can't point you to one specific one, although I do have some that are specific about timeline jumping. But the concept is, if we, in our free will choice, make a decision that is of service to others, in alignment to source creator and positive polarity, you go to the next higher timeline. If you make a free will choice that is in service to self, not in alignment to source, but more in alignment to like negative AI, then you go to the next lower timeline. And we can do that because we do have free will choice. We can do that throughout any of our decisions that we're making, right? And that's just kind of how we navigate our lives. Within the dimension of the future timelines are stations of identity, commonly called your oversoul or your higher self, which comprise whole spiritual bodies of our forgotten selves, our prior selves. These oversouls or higher selves are spiritual energetic bodies that hold our unified, intelligent matrix of our mind matrix that make up our spiritual identity. We are designed to reclaim those memories. We're born with, most of us are born with amnesia, and we throughout living decide to recognize and act upon the gnosis, that inner knowing, and recall that we volunteered to come here for a bigger mission. And in doing that, develop a communication with our higher self, and then we have access to that unified intelligence, which is a culmination of the intelligence that all of the lives that we incarnated and had developed over time. Let's see. We are designed and destined to reclaim during the timeline collapses, transpiring during the ascension cycle. This is why those beings on the ascension path continually experience energetic healing by meeting the cellular memories of their unresolved emotion and consciousness state throughout the multiple timelines experienced by one of our other selves, along with our lives and their lives and experiences of lifetimes. So when you are able to have a conversation with your higher self, you're able to say, I feel like my fear of water has something to do with something that happened to me in my past life. Did I have an event in a past life that caused me to have a fear of water? Yes or no? And depending on what your abilities are, then typically that's just opening the door to a hallway that you can then navigate down through your questions and pulling in messages to determine what that cause is. So if you're claircognizant, you may just have this this knowing drop into you that you drowned, or maybe you were drowned intentionally, and that gives you a fear of open water. A lot of us have had that because historically, those starseed souls that volunteer to come down here have done it multiple times. And in being starseeds, we tend to have been targeted by ignorance lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So we had been persecuted for our abilities or our beliefs in multiple lives. And so that's just an example of how a this life feeling can lead you back to instances and events that occurred in prior lives that actually help shape who you are and your identity today. We must move through the series of timelines in each dimension and frequency and reclaim our spiritual identity while recoding and changing the obsolete or false reality of alien AI and keep their interference at bay, while this prevents disruption of spiritual growth, otherwise known as shadow work. So some people have shadows that they have to work through from this life and only this life. A lot of people have shadows they have to work through from ancestral lives, prior lives, and this life. And so as your frequency rises, you're able to navigate that shadow work more efficiently. Because you rise up out of that victim mentality, out of that 3D mentality, where you're in a position of defense instead of offense. So when your frequency rises and you no longer identify as a victim where all these bad things have happened to you and you don't know why, you're actually more in a position of power, because you can ask questions and know that you may have been targeted in other lives and this life for being a starseed, but all of it was for you to learn the lessons you had to learn. Negative polarity, positive polarity, and different roles in different lifetimes and different cultures for your soul evolution. And that cements your identity, your soul identity. So we merge these multidimensional time fields and collect our spiritual bodies, thus reclaiming our consciousness to make it to the finish line. So that's where we timeline jump. So you go through the shadow and you do the work. whatever that looks like for you. And whenever you make the free will choice to course correct to source, and the end result of that piece of your shadow work, you choose a higher in service to others timeline, you timeline jump to a higher time. And then if the work of going through that shadow beats you down and puts you in a position where you feel low vibrational and you find yourself in a fear state or a victim state again, that is your free will choice to align in a lower timeline. So it really just depends on your navigation on how you see things and how you your consciousness allows you to see it in a different aspect. So when you're reclaiming your consciousness as a soul being, we've been through this. Most people have incarnated and reached their ascension multiple lives. This is not new for your soul, but you decided to come back and do and help humanity. So you still have lessons that you've had to do for this soul evolution to get to the point of like graduation, which is the ultimate goal. Like that is the finish line, ascension, from duality to unity, from service to self to service to others. So each time you're making a decision in your day-to-day matrix life to be in service to others, you're choosing a higher time. If you are having a rough time or you're just inherently a very selfish person and you think about yourself first before anyone else, then you're consistently choosing a lower timeline. So today we move through all the artificial mind control in organic AI time fields, that negative alien influence of our timelines with false gods and enslavement agendas in order to arrive at the God source gateway, the source gateway of, so you get out of that enslavement mentality and you take your power back. But you have to go through that to understand where you came from and what you have, what you're at risk of losing, right? So the center point of that union is your 0 point with God source. So we're always trying to navigate back to that space of the open gateway for God source. So we make a decision in our 3D life, we make a decision to be in service to others and align our energy with source creator. And that causes us to jump to the next highest timeline. As we do that as a collective, as a people, then the energy forces, which are mostly positive polarity, force a timeline collapse. Because when you think about it, when you have multiple people jumping to different higher timelines, that's going to force that higher timeline to become more stable because it has more energy holding it up. And the lower timeline becomes less stable. And so it collapses. And so the stronger of the two timelines, which is the higher timeline, which is the higher frequency, is the stable one. And that is where the energy is holding it into place. So the timeline bifurcation occurs due to the lower overall energy, and the timeline octave is less stable. So that frequency becomes less stable in the lower timelines because you have these people choosing to be in service to others, stay high frequency, high energy, and they jump to that next highest timeline. So you don't have as much energy holding that lower timeline in place, and it's unstable. The higher the quality of overall energy, the more stable and connected to the personal and environmental experience on Earth will become. So the more people you have as a collective that are choosing high vibrational actions to be in service to others, to align with source creator, unity consciousness, compassion, empathy, non-judgment, all of those things, that strengthens the higher timeline and weakens the lower one. The accumulative effect of gradually increasing frequency and changing instructional sets in many of these transdimensional time and space fields reach a point of divergence. Pressure increases on the planetary polarity, resulting in a cumulative intensity, and the combined forces that exist together within a collective energy field reaches its apex, and the split occurs. So when you have, that's that timeline split, right? That's that 3D folks are going to stay choosing 3D things. They're going to stay on that 3D timeline. 5D folks are going to, they're splitting. So they're constantly splitting that timeline. And eventually those time and space continuums separate, and that is a divergence. This is called the point of divergence within the fixed point in the field, in the range of possibilities, which is a bifurcation of time. During the bifurcation of time, our inner energetic integrity is tested. This is also known as the dark night of the soul. And we see this a lot. I see it from a completely different perspective now that I'm helping clear out and transform negative energy to positive energy. It's quite common that we are one light being in a family of darkness. That's what we chose. Yay. It's less common that you're a light being in a family of light beings. But that does happen too. Sorry, my hair. So the goal is to balance the adaptability and flexibility, neutrality in our life situation. So what happens is someone gets their QET session and their frequency is rising. And so they are working through, I always say it's like getting donkey kicked under the ascension highway, because the blocks that make the ascension pathway more difficult to obtain are moved out of the way. So you are able to go as quickly and efficiently as you're able to go. And then you look around and you have partners that are completely asleep. They look at you like you have two heads. You don't feel like you have the ability to speak to them freely and share your accomplishments in the day and the battles that you've won and whatnot. And so you end up feeling isolated. And we talked about that a little bit in the video that I did yesterday. So when you look around and you see like you're the only one, okay, that's why a lot of people end up finding their way to Healing Disclosures on Telegram, because it is a community of like-hearted and like-souled individuals where we're going through these same evolutionary changes within ourselves, within our own environment, our own communities, but it's very similar to each other in our crew, in our groups. And so we definitely offer that support to you if you find yourself feeling like you're on an island. We don't want you to feel like you're alone, because you're not. It's just in your immediate circle, you may feel that way. So the goal is balance. So your increasingly higher frequency, whether you ever say a word to anybody around you or not, your frequency will change them. It will sometimes flip someone that's been service to self to service to others, and they don't even know what happened. It's just a positive reverberation of that frequency being felt in their own energy body. So whatever the quality of energy that we broadcast out into the universe, it sets in motion the accumulative frequency of the energetic content that will be directly returned back to us. So when we send it out there, we're sending out positive vibes, we're sending out high vibrational feelings and emotions. We are sharing love and gratitude and authenticity. And even if we don't know the answer, we're willing to help other people find it together. That is the energy that comes back to you. So that goes back to another video I recently did about mindful manifestation. If you're always thinking about the downside of things, whatever that looks like to you, the negative side of things, if you're the negative Nancy in the room, you're putting out negative energy, and that negative energy is going to find its way back to you. that is a choice. That is learned behavior. That is, to an extent, it's a byproduct of manipulation, but you also allow it. Okay, so there comes a point in time where I tell people all the time, like, you have to also forgive yourself in the role that you played and being in the exact position you're in right now in life. And sometimes they kind of bristle to that. They're like, what do you mean? Like, all these things were done to me. Well, that's not 100% true, because we do have soul contracts and we do have choices in almost every aspect of our life before we even ever incarnate here, period. But in the life, once we're also living it, we always have free will choice. And even if it's just how you perceive something, if you rip off that victim mentality label that you put on everything before you absorb it into your being, and you understand that sometimes things are happening for us to grow from the friction, it's a completely different level of understanding. And it is that the change that we all want to see in the world happens within us first. So be the change you want to see. So that overwhelming energy that you send out needs to be what you want to get back. If you want to be surrounded by positive energy and a higher timeline, that's where your manifesting needs to be. That's where your mindful manifesting needs to be. That's where you control what you think about. If you catch yourself dwelling on something from the past that was negative, that needs to be a point in time where you go, no, I'm not going to feed that monster. That's part of my past. I've already passed that test. We're looking forward. We're not looking backward, and just course correct. Simple as that. This is why it's crucial to be able to find our inner stillness in meditation and broadcast it as much as possible in unconditional love, forgiveness, peace, gratitude to the universe as much as possible. And I've seen it. I, I always like to use myself as an example, because unfortunately I've had a really good lifetime full of examples. So there was definitely a point in time where, really for decades, I thought that I was cursed, that it didn't matter what decision I made, it didn't matter how many times I changed the people I was around, bad things kept happening. And then I looked within. I got to the point where I really realized one day that I didn't have any control over all these exterior forces around me, but I had control over me. And for a long time, as simple as an idea as that is, it was escaping. I kept thinking, how can I be happy when I have all these people, doing this to me and doing this to me, and I have to deal with this and I have to deal with that? Well, that's low vibration, and that's victim mentality. And the day that it changed for me was about a decade ago, where I said, I can only control me. And today I'm going to say, I'm going to wear what makes me happy. I'm going to eat what makes me happy. I'm going to listen to what makes me happy. And I'm going to just rejoice in that. And that was all a very internal process and decision, because I had been in such a habit of never doing what truly made me happy, but doing what I was expected to do. And the misery of the fallout of that. And that would set up a whole nother negative timeline, right? And so it was a small step, but it was a small step in course correcting and a higher timeline in the right direction. And that, I know, that day was pivotal in me being who I am today, because I cold turkey stopped thinking that I was being cursed in my actions in my life, and realized that the result of my actions are mine. And I took that power back then. It took me a long time to get there. It's not easy, but it seriously is just a decision to take the power back. I'm like, no, I'm not going to let what other people do ruin my day. I'm not going to let what other people think or feel about a certain thing that really truly resonates with me that I know in my soul to be true change how I feel. That's for them to work through, and I've worked through it. And just own it. And I highly encourage you to do that, because the more we entertain other people's negative comments and negative energy, we're actually letting that stick in our energy field. And a lot of people are really good about finding light beings like us, and they dump all their shit in our lap, and then they go on about their day, and we're sat there dealing with it. So that's not really being a good friend. So if you have friends that do that to you, you need to set that boundary. Like, no, I feel great in my choices. I feel great in my life, in my diet, in my exercise, and whatever it happens to be. So if you've made choices that make you feel not so great, I invite you to work through that inwardly. I need you to go within yourself and determine what you could have done differently to have a better outcome. But don't come dump all that on me, because that's not my garbage. That's not my shadows to work through. And just set the boundary and be unapologetic about it. Somewhere along the way, we as a culture have been made to believe that we just need to have an open door policy for everyone's crap. And we just need to take. And that's not true. When you work really, really hard to clear out all this negativity from your life, and you find peace and calmness and unity with like-hearted and like-souled people, you really, really value that. And you want to take care of it. And so when it's important enough to you to do so, you will. And you're completely supported in the universe to do that. You have a huge support system. You have angels, archangels, ascendant masters, source creator, your guides, and they want you to be sovereign. They want you to maintain your power and know your strength and your place, and not allow people to come take anymore. That is not what's in your highest and best good. Understanding that your higher self already knows that, and asking for that assistance, and then opening yourself up to the miracle and the magic of the assistance of your spirit team will make it so much easier for you in life. You will find then that your life is just flowing toward the positive, and you can easier detect the negative in your life. And so that is where you have these choices to choose a higher timeline. And the more of us that do that actually collapse the timeline in a positive polarity, in a positive direction. I know that was like super dense with a lot of information. I got most of it from the Ascension glossary, and I'll put a link to that in the description box of this video. And I look forward to seeing you. If you want to discuss any of this, come and join us in Healing Disclosures on Telegram. You guys have a great day.
It's the key to life. It makes it possible for us to get out the door, challenge ourselves, and find joy. There are few things more important than our health. Throughout history, there have been breakthroughs in health technology that have made our lives longer, more vibrant, more joyful. Breakthroughs that have fundamentally changed how we think, learn, and live.
This is where the future lies, and this is why redox chemistry and supplements that employ this are so powerful.
They literally turn on and turn off, signal every single process in every living cell. And to be able to stabilize a product that allows us to replenish that is just a phenomenal breakthrough.
This has the capability to change the landscape of the healthcare system as we know it.
What if one of the biggest breakthroughs in health technology was actually something small? A breakthrough technology that works at the cellular level, where health begins.
This truly is a transformational technology.
It's an elegant and very simple product that's having a profound impact.
When people ask me what I'm most excited about, it's the fact that we own the space of redox right now.
A health technology so unique and cutting edge that it is transforming health at a foundational level and changing lives all over the world.
I started using the product and I could see that it was real. It was a real deal.
And the way it changed my life was absolutely mind-blowing.
ASEA was something truly special. It was unique.
It has had tremendous impact on my life.
You know, sometimes you just have that kind of feeling that you're just going to take a leap of faith, and that's what I did.
And that became a defining moment where I started sharing it with everyone.
It's life-changing. I mean, it gave me my life back. In one word, it's profound.
A technology that empowers the most basic building blocks of your body to thrive. ASEA Redox.